Hey sis, if I said to you that the Bible has been historically used to keep women in check and it's time to move away from this, would I offend you? It might sound like an offensive statement for some women to hear. If so, my job is halfway done. Women need to be offended, in quotation marks, to fully wake up their critical thinking and open their minds to women's oppression by way of religious thought and the rewriting of history, which I've covered in other essays such as How Black Women's Religious, Economic and Political Erasure Happened. So if you're on YouTube, then that essay may pop up on the screen somewhere as I'm speaking now, or it will be linked in the description box. And if you're on Substack, then it will be directly linked into this written version of this essay. For Black women, for generations, we have carried the weight of faith, God, and community on our backs. We have been the ones who have kept the church and its oppressive belief system about women alive for generation after generation, by following the verses that do not benefit us, such as Ephesians 5:22 through to 24. This is one of those verses. This is not some feminist theory gone crazy. It's a deep dive series into key Bible verses directed at women to lift the veil of illusion over religion not being oppressive, in quotation marks, and break the spell that women, but especially Black women, have been placed under. Many of our mothers prayed us through things like poverty, racism, heartbreak, even death. Our grandmothers held entire households together by the grace of God, as they used to say to us. The question is, why have women not stopped to look at the spiritually oppressive hidden messages behind some of these Bible verses? Across Africa, the Caribbean, UK, US, and Europe, these same women who buy into this spiritual conditioning are told they must live beneath somebody else's authority, not because of skill, wisdom, or calling, but because that's what the Bible says, and that's a woman's place. The first verse in this series is often placed around women's necks like a chain, and that is Ephesians 5:22 through to 24. This verse is frequently presented as what many religious folks call divine order. If we take a look closer at this in practice, they have become tools to silence, restrict, and condition women, but my main concern is Black women, and this is due to the transatlantic slave trade. There's a high chance that we are very religious women, even today, still in the 21st century. For us, it pushes us into obedience and that word that the Black Manosphere love so much, and that is, of course, submission. It's time for Black women to read these texts with fresh, uncolonised eyes and without religious Black men yapping in their ears. Remember, my opening statement was, if I cause offence, my job of waking up your critical thinking is halfway done. Next, you need to consider the reality. Wives, submit yourselves. Ephesians 5:22 through to 24. This Bible verse tells us, wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as you do the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Saviour. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. This is an interpretation that I found of this particular verse here. In countless churches, this passage is used to declare that men are natural leaders and women are natural followers, that men speak and women listen, that men decide and women should accept. When these words meet the lived experiences of Black women, something deeper and very dangerous happens, something far more harmful that Black women need to be conscious of. A double hierarchy of race and gender. A non-Black or brown woman being told, submit to your husband, hears this command shaped by just gender. A Black or brown woman hears it through gender and race. Black women have been told since slavery that our place is beneath somebody else's authority. First enslavers, then employers in institutions, then husbands, partners, and pastors. The expectation of obedience is not really new to us. When a pastor or a partner uses the word submit as divine or even godly endorsement, it lands on top of a long history of dominance over Black women. Creating this link between this verse and reality is key and the liberation for Black women. In a modern day context, conditioning Black women to submit to their husbands and see them as the heads in quotation marks has given birth to the Black Manosphere's #1 talking point of needing submission from Black women in quotation marks to say what they directly tell us, and also that we are unsubmissive women, again in quotation marks, what they directly tell us. Firstly, Black women need to ask themselves, why do Black men need submission from us when other races of men are not sat on the internet crying about this problem that they have with their own women? Secondly, Black women need to push back on the notion that they are not submissive, but this shouldn't be done from a place of being proud of this statement. The most submissive woman you will find is the pick-me woman. In the Black community, we have more women like this than who are not like this. The statement they make about Black women being unsubmissive is not true when you look at the behaviour of pick-me women and how much we find this within the Black community. The reality is they, meaning the guys in the Black Manosphere, they don't actually want the pick-me women. They want the archetype of woman who is not a pick-me woman, but they don't understand how to attract and retain her. This is a topic I've covered in my essay, Why They Have a Problem with Megan Thee Stallion. So if you're on YouTube, this will be linked in the description box, or it may pop up on the right-hand side of the screen as I'm speaking now. If you're on Substack, then it will be directly linked in the written version of this essay. Black men's cries for submission. Black men's cries for submission is a topic that I will also cover in a separate essay that I've titled Notes on Black Men's Submission. Conditioning women to tolerate abuse. So outside of the argument that Ephesians 5:22 through to 24 creates a race and gender hierarchy that resembles historical oppression for Black women, and also the second argument that it's the foundation of the Black Manosphere's #1 talking point about submission, this particular Bible passage does open a woman up to remaining in an abusive relationship with a man. We all know and remember Denia Jackson, who was the wife of the Black and male relationship coach, in quotation marks, that's what he called himself, who repeatedly cheated on her and emotionally abused her. This is, of course, Derek Jackson. For Denia, it was reported that she would study the women he cheated on her with and also the sex tapes that he had with these women so that she could satisfy him. This woman sat through years of marriage to this man and enduring a lot of pain, only for him to file for divorce from her. Secondly, we have the case of Kelley Steele. Kelley Steele, who is the wife of Pastor Reggie Steele, who appeared on the Dear Wifey Podcast in April 2025. She was on there admitting that she would, in quotation marks, iron her husband's shirts so he could go and cheat with other women. If you are catching this on Substack, there will be a direct link to this interview with Kelley Steele and you can see her responses there. If you are on YouTube, then I will be sure to link this whole interview from the Dear Wifey podcast in the description box below. So the different outcomes for Black women versus non-Black women. So based on what we've seen, it could be argued that the use of Ephesians 5:22 through to 24 for women will result in different outcomes for Black women compared to non-Black women for two reasons. Firstly, non-Black women, and by this I mean mainly white women, have a history of standing up to their men. History shows us that they have done things with women's rights so that we have rights today as women. Secondly, a quick look at the behaviour of Black men in relationship, which is the demographic of men that Black women are more likely to date and marry through to further conditioning. If we look at this will show clearly that a Black woman is likely to have a negative experience with him, and this Bible verse will keep her trapped like Denia and Kelley were. The first point doesn't really need much expansion on. It's clear how women have gained rights via white women's pushback. That is very, very obvious. With the second point, it was found that black men are the race of men most likely to cheat, especially black American men, I'm sorry to report. This was found in the Institute of Family Studies research report, Who Cheats More? So if you're on YouTube, I will directly link this study in the description box. If you are on Substack, you will find the direct link to this research in this written essay. This doesn't mean that other men around the diaspora don't make this statistic. It would be safe to assume that black men outside of the USA are very likely to cheat. This could be due to the mindset of black men and how they see black women. Also, this is influenced by the global black manosphere. To confirm this, black men do have a very low marriage rate, but an exceptionally high divorce rate. Now, their divorce rate is said to be the highest among all races of men, and this was found by Bowling Green University's research. If you are on YouTube, I will drop that university's research in the description box. If you are on Substack, you will find it directly linked in this written version of the essay. While this research might suggest that women are not staying with these men due to their high divorce rate, we need to consider who these men are marrying, and therefore, once we know who they're marrying, who is most likely to be divorcing them. Now, black women across the diaspora, we already know who this is. We all know that while black men are the least likely race of man to marry, we do know that when they do marry, they are more likely to marry a non-black woman. Why this is a separate issue. It is a key fact when we look at Bible references. To prove this point and that this is a fact, Pew Research Center also confirms that black men are more likely to marry non-black women in their research who is marrying out. If you're on YouTube, it will be in the description box. If you're on Substack, I will link it directly in this essay. We also know that from Bowling Green University's research, which I cited earlier, that they also have the highest divorce rate because it is non-black women, therefore, who are divorcing black men. It is not black women. This would make logical sense based on the research. So if they're more likely to be marrying out and they have a very high divorce rate, then we need to look at who they're marrying, which is obviously non-black women, and it is the non-black women who are obviously divorcing them. Danae is a perfect example of a black woman who endured Derek Jackson's treatment longer than she should and ended up being the one who was actually served a divorce rather than the other way round. Her case study alone, and also the situation with Kelley Steele, who was on the Dear Wifey podcast, both of these does support what the research shows. Black women will endure, other races of women won't when it comes to how black men show up in relationships. Now, this is not my personal opinion. This is based on what we can gather from what research and data confirms and what it shows us, and from obviously being smart enough to be able to put 2 and 2 together and make it equal 4. This is why the Bible verse, Ephesians 5:22 through to 24, has a very different outcome when telling a black woman to submit to your husband no matter what, compared to telling a non-black woman the same thing if we look at the research and how each group of women often ends up, meaning who stays and who leaves, and how religious conditioning can make black women stay, as we see with Kelley Steele, and we could argue also with Danae, as she showed religious traits also when she was discussing her experiences with Derek. In addition to this, we need to ask, of all groups of women, who is more likely to fall under religious or spiritual conditioning? And of course, it could be argued very, very easily it would be black women. This is because it's a cultural inheritance, I would call it, from the transatlantic slave trade. The burden of spiritual perfection for black women. To take this a step further, Ephesians frames submission as something that is done unto the Lord, as they say. This is where the spiritual manipulation enhances itself. Black women need to see that. If submission equals godliness, then questioning a husband's behavior becomes some kind of rebellion against God. And it can be framed this way by men to keep black women in check and also abuse tolerant. These aren't theoretical harms or theoretical theories for Black women. For Black women, it is a reality. They are stories that are whispered in counselling rooms, in women's prayer groups, across living rooms, in the Black diaspora. And this is the danger. We whisper. We don't actually rebel or put a stop to it. The final point here is about the role that the church actually plays. In many Black churches, traditionally they are male-led. Ephesians becomes a very convenient shield for patriarchy, it could be argued. Firstly, women can serve, but they cannot lead. Women can organise events in the church, but they can't actually shape any of the doctrines. Women can speak in testimonies, but they can't preach from the pulpits. Women must be loyal, even when men are unaccountable. The key thing is to liberate your mind from the religious conditioning so that you can be the best version of you. There is nothing godly, in quotation marks, about your silence or tolerating any kind of abuse, just to say you're married and or to follow religious doctrines that are designed with your oppression in mind. If Danae and Kelley's lived experiences as religious Black women don't highlight the dangers of this particular verse, Ephesians 5:22 through to 24, then next I'll be looking at Colossians 3:18 and how this is used to stop women from using our brains and also to help us forget who we really are. And if you do agree, then let me know. Either which way, whatever you think, let me know. And just before I go, I just want to put a quick shout out about the fundraiser I'm doing with Women for Women International. I'm supporting the women in Congo who are being R-worded and essayed as part of a Black male war strategy using women's bodies to try and win this war. It's been going on for a long time. So just 500 USDs it takes to help 80 women. So per 80 women, that is the cost. The link is in the description box. Give whatever you can, even if it's just $1, £1, €1, it really doesn't matter. All the help we can get them will actually do something for these women. I'll catch you in the next one. Much love, the Black Woman Essayist.